The massive crystal halls of the Galactic Council stretched endlessly in all directions, filled with the quiet hum of 1,000 different species conducting the business of civilization. In one corner of the vast xenobiology department, Dr. Hannah Kim sat hunched over her workstation, updating files that most beings would never bother to read. Her fingers moved across the holographic interface as she reviewed the latest batch of species classifications. The Deltari from Rigel 7 had perfect memory storage capabilities and served as living libraries. The silicon-based Quarites could survive in any environment and worked as planetary surveyors. The gaseous nebulans communicated through electromagnetic fields and handled all interstellar communications. Then she came to entry 7742, Delta Earth. Humans. Hannah frowned at the sparse data. Physical capabilities were average at best. No enhanced senses, like the wolf-like Fenari, who could detect chemicals at the molecular level. No natural armor plating, like the turtle-shaped Corvani. No telepathic abilities, like the ethereal sun. The humans breathed standard atmosphere, needed regular food and water, and died after barely a century of life. She scrolled through the military assessment. Humans had no natural weapons, no hive-mind coordination like the insect Vrex, no ability to phase through matter like the ghostly wraiths. Their technology was primitive compared to galactic standards. Their ships were loud, inefficient, and required constant maintenance. The cultural analysis was equally unimpressive. Humans seemed to argue constantly among themselves about everything. They had dozens of different governments, hundreds of languages, and thousands of conflicting belief systems. Most galactic species achieved unity through specialization, but humans appeared to specialize in disagreeing with each other. A soft chime interrupted her review. The Council's first contact team was returning from Earth with their diplomatic assessment. Hannah activated the communication channel and watched as Captain Ji-hoon Park's face appeared on her screen. He looked tired but pleased. "How did the negotiations go?" Hannah asked. Ji-hoon smiled. "Better than expected. The humans are eager to join galactic trade networks. They offered us coffee, music, and something called art in exchange for basic technology upgrades." "Harmless enough." "Coffee." Hannah raised an eyebrow. "A mild stimulant drink. Quite pleasant, actually. They seemed very excited about sharing it." Ji-hoon chuckled. The human representative, a woman named Sarah Chen, spent 3 hours explaining different preparation methods. "I think she was more interested in teaching us about coffee than discussing trade agreements." Hannah made notes in the file. Humans appeared to value cultural exchange over strategic advantage. Another mark against their potential usefulness too. "The Council? What's your recommendation for their trading classification?" she asked. Ji-hoon paused thoughtfully. "Class C should be sufficient. They have some interesting ideas about social organization and problem solving, but nothing that would be valuable to specialized civilizations. The Zephyrians can process information 1,000,000 times faster than human brains. The Keth can regrow entire limbs in days. The Vrex can coordinate millions of individuals without any communication delays. And humans can do what, exactly?" "They tell stories," Ji-hoon said with a slight laugh, "and they argue about everything. But they seem friendly enough." After ending the call, Hannah completed the human file. She marked them as a minor species with limited trading potential. Their homeworld would receive basic protection under Council law and access to standard trade routes. Nothing more. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place. In the Zephyrian crystal matrices, computational analysis concluded that humans were inefficient biological processors. In the aquatic cities of the Keth, bioengineers noted that human physiology was unremarkable and poorly adapted. In the Vrex hives, military strategists dismissed humans as individually weak and collectively chaotic. Council records were updated. Human space was marked as a quiet border region suitable for minor commerce but of no strategic importance. Earth received its Class C designation and was promptly filed away in the vast archives of galactic bureaucracy. Weeks passed. The galaxy continued its ancient patterns. The Zephyrians computed, the Keth engineered, the Vrex organized. Dozens of other species pursued their own specialized roles in the complex machinery of interstellar civilization. In her small office, Hannah moved on to more pressing matters. A new silicon-based species near the galactic core showed promise for high-temperature mining operations. A recently discovered energy-being collective might revolutionize power distribution systems. These were the discoveries that mattered. The species that could contribute something unique and valuable. The humans sent occasional trade requests for basic technologies. They offered cultural artifacts in return, strange items with no practical application, music recordings, visual art, written stories, games, the kind of things that served no specialized purpose in an efficient galactic economy. Most Council members forgot about Earth entirely within a standard galactic month. It was just another primitive world, inhabited by another unremarkable species in a galaxy full of both. The humans seemed content with their minor trading status, and everyone assumed they would remain a footnote in galactic history. No one suspected that in just a few short months, this overlooked species from an insignificant backwater planet would prove that sometimes the most important discoveries come from the most unexpected places. The emergency alarm echoed through the council chambers for the first time in over 200 years. Dr. Subin Lee rushed through the corridors, her medical files scattered in her arms as she tried to reach the main assembly hall. Behind her, dozens of other council scientists and officials hurried toward what everyone hoped would not be the crisis they all feared. The massive hall filled quickly with representatives from across the galaxy. The air hummed with nervous energy, as species that rarely interacted found themselves sitting side by side. Crystalline Zephyrians pulsed with rapid calculations. Aquatic Keth floated in their mobile water tanks. Insectoid Vrex clicked their mandibles in agitated patterns. Dr. Lee stepped onto the central platform, her hand shaking slightly as she activated the holographic display system. Three-dimensional images of star systems appeared above the assembly, with angry red markers spreading like a disease across the galactic map. 6 days ago, we received the first reports from the mining colonies in the Kepler 442 system, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. Workers from the Vrex colonies began falling ill with symptoms we had never seen before. The display zoomed in on the Kepler system, showing the locations of various mining operations. Red warning markers covered nearly half the installations. Within 12 hours, the illness had spread to every Vrex worker in the system. But that was just the beginning. Dr. Lee's voice grew more strained. The pathogen jumped to the Keth bioengineering teams within 18 hours. Then to the Zephyrian computational specialists. Then to every other species present. A delegate's crystal form flashed bright blue, the color of urgent communication. This is impossible. Our immune systems have no common elements with organic species. How can a pathogen affect both crystalline and biological life forms? Dr. Lee manipulated the display to show microscopic images of the pathogen. The shapes twisted and changed as they watched, never holding the same form for more than a few seconds. It adapts, she said simply. Every time we think we understand it, it changes. When Zephyrian medical algorithms try to analyze it, it becomes something that cannot be computed. When Keth biological systems try to fight it, it becomes something that biological systems cannot recognize. When Vrex coordination protocols try to contain it, it spreads in patterns that coordination cannot predict. The chamber erupted in dozens of different forms of communication. Crystal chimes, aquatic sonar pulses, insectoid clicking, and the varied sounds of 100 other species all mixed together in a cacophony of fear and confusion. Ambassador Minho, of the Keth people raised one of his flexible appendages for attention. Our bioengineering capabilities are the most advanced in known space. We have created solutions for every biological problem ever encountered. How is this possible? Because it is not just a biological problem, Dr. Lee replied. It affects your bioengineering systems directly. When you try to create a biological solution, it becomes something that attacks the solution itself. A Vrex military commander stepped forward, her multiple legs clicking on the chamber floor. Our hive coordination has maintained perfect quarantine protocols. No pathogen has ever escaped our containment systems. This one has, Dr. Lee said grimly. It spreads through your coordination networks. The better your coordination, the faster it spreads. The display showed the pathogen's progress across multiple star systems. The Altair colonies had gone completely silent 3 days ago. New Singapore Station had sent increasingly desperate messages before all communications stopped. Proxima Research Station was reporting that their entire staff was becoming ill, despite being in completely sealed environments. Our greatest strengths have become our greatest weaknesses, Dr. Lee continued. The Zephyrian computational power that makes you the galaxy's best processors cannot understand something that changes faster than you can calculate. The Keth biological mastery that makes you perfect engineers cannot engineer a solution to something that evolves faster than you can adapt. The Vrex coordination that makes you unbeatable in military operations spreads the pathogen faster than any quarantine can contain. A small, elderly delegate from the Altany people spoke up. What about combined efforts? Surely, if all our species worked together. We tried that at Vega Station, Dr. Lee replied sadly. A joint task force of our best specialists from 12 different species. The pathogen adapted to all of them simultaneously. The station is now completely quarantined. The chamber fell silent except for the quiet hum of life support systems and the soft sounds of various species breathing, pulsing, or maintaining their existence in whatever way their biology required. Finally, a young Zephyrian delegate flickered with a dim, uncertain light. What do we do when our specializations are not enough? Dr. Lee looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. Every species present had achieved greatness through perfect specialization. Every species had found their unique role in the galaxy by becoming the absolute best at one particular thing. I do not know, she admitted, but perhaps we need to consider approaches that are not specialized. Perhaps we need to think about species that do not fit our normal categories. The chamber buzzed with quiet conversation as the implications of her suggestion sank in. For the first time in galactic history, their greatest specialists were completely helpless. The crisis was spreading, and everything they thought they knew about solving problems had failed. Someone, somewhere, would have to think of something completely different. The small human ship Discovery drifted slowly toward Kepler 4 to see. Its hull scarred from the long journey through quarantined space. On the bridge, Dr. Jenna Choi studied the warning messages flashing across her screens. Every galactic authority had told them to stay away. The pathogen had defeated the galaxy's greatest minds. What could a small team of humans possibly accomplish? Are you sure about this? Asked Engineer Wujanam, checking their equipment readings for the 10th time. The council representatives made it pretty clear that we should keep our distance. Dr. Choi smiled grimly. They also made it clear that they're out of options. Sometimes an outside perspective helps. The third member of their team, xenobiologist Suman Park, floated weightless near the communication console. I just received permission to dock at Station 7. They sound desperate enough to try anything. 20 minutes later, they walked through the airlock into a scene of organized chaos. Zephyrian crystals flickered rapidly in emergency patterns. Keth bioengineers moved frantically between bubbling tanks of experimental treatments. Varix coordinators clicked and chirped as they tried to maintain some semblance of order. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, The station's medical director met them at the entrance. Her face showed the exhaustion of someone who had been fighting a losing battle for days. "Thank you for coming," she said, though her tone suggested she held little hope. "I should warn you that 16 research teams have already failed. The pathogen adapts to every approach we try." Dr. Choi nodded. "Can you show us what you've attempted so far?" They spent the next hour reviewing the failed attempts. The Zephyrians had tried computational modeling, creating millions of possible solutions in minutes. The pathogen had simply evolved past every model. The Keth had used their bioengineering mastery to create targeted treatments. The pathogen had adapted to attack the treatments themselves. The Vrex had implemented perfect quarantine protocols. The pathogen had used their coordination networks to spread faster. Each approach was perfect within its specialty, Dr. Choi observed. "That might be the problem." "What do you mean?" asked Dr. Tanaka. "You're each using your greatest strength," explained Engineer Nam. "But this pathogen seems designed to turn strengths into weaknesses. What if we try something messier?" Suman Park was already setting up equipment that looked completely wrong to everyone watching. She connected Zephyrian computational devices to Keth biological analyzers. She linked Vrex coordination protocols to human data processing systems. That looked primitive compared to galactic technology. "This is highly irregular," protested the Zephyrian-led researcher, its crystal form pulsing with confusion. "These systems are not compatible. The theoretical frameworks contradict each other." "Maybe that's exactly what we need," Dr. Choi replied, pulling up diagnostic readings on a screen that displayed information in ways that hurt to look at. "Your computational power is amazing, but it follows logical patterns. What if we combine it with biological intuition that doesn't follow logic?" "But biological systems cannot process computational data efficiently," argued the Keth bioengineer. "Right," said Engineer Nam, jury-rigging connections between incompatible systems. "But what if we don't worry about efficiency? What if we just try to understand this thing from 3 different directions at once?" The next few hours were unlike anything the galactic researchers had ever witnessed. The humans seemed to approach the problem as if rules were merely suggestions. They used Zephyrian analytical power not to create perfect models, but to generate thousands of imperfect ones. They applied Keth bioengineering not to create targeted solutions, but to create messy, adaptive responses. They implemented Vrex coordination not for perfect control, but for flexible, chaotic experimentation. "This is completely unscientific," muttered the Zephyrian researcher as it watched Dr. Choi combine 3 contradictory treatment approaches into something that should not have worked. "Science is about finding truth," Dr. Choi replied, watching as her mixed-up readings showed patterns that no single system could have detected. "Sometimes truth is messy." The pathogen's behavior on their combined displays looked different than it had on any single species analysis. Instead of a perfectly adapting superorganism, it looked like something that was very good at defeating specialized approaches, but confused by approaches that made no sense. "It's like a master chess player," Suman Park observed, "playing against someone who doesn't know the rules and keeps moving pieces randomly. The chess master's expertise becomes useless." Engineer Nam modified a Keth biotreatment using Zephyrian computational models and Vrex distribution protocols. The result looked like something that had been designed by committee with no clear leadership. It was inefficient, theoretically impure, and completely illogical. It worked. The pathogen tried to adapt to the biotreatment and found itself confused by computational elements. It tried to evolve past the computational aspects and was attacked by biological responses it couldn't predict. It tried to spread through the distribution system and found itself facing coordination protocols that changed randomly according to human intuition, rather than logical patterns. Within 6 hours, the infected population at Station 7 began recovering. "How did you know this would work?" asked Dr. Tanaka. staring at the readings that showed the pathogen retreating for the first time since the crisis began. Dr. Choi looked tired but satisfied. We didn't. But sometimes not knowing the right way to do something means you accidentally find a way that works. The galaxy's specialists had failed because they were too good at what they did. Sometimes, it turned out, being mediocre at everything was exactly what the situation required. News of the human success spread across the galaxy faster than the pathogen ever had. Within days, small human teams were being requested at crisis points throughout known space. What happened next shocked every observer who had dismissed Earth. As a minor trading partner, at Proxima Station, the main power core had been failing for weeks. Zephyrian computational specialists had calculated that repairs would take 6 months using standard protocols. Keth bioengineers had determined that biological alternatives would require complete system replacement. Vrex coordinators had organized the most efficient evacuation plan in galactic history, then engineer. Huna Jung arrived with a toolkit that looked like it belonged in a junk shop. "You want to fix our primary power core with that?" asked the Zephyrian station commander, its crystal form flickering with disbelief as it observed Jung's equipment. Jung nodded cheerfully. "Well, not just this. I was hoping to borrow some of your computational power. Maybe use some Keth bio-cooling systems, and definitely need Vrex organizational help to coordinate the work." "Those approaches are incompatible," the commander protested. "Computational systems require precise calibration. Biological systems need organic integration. Military coordination demands rigid hierarchy." "Right," Jung agreed, already connecting cables between systems that had never been designed to work together. "But what if we ignore what they're supposed to do and focus on what they actually can do?" 4 hours later, Proxima Station had power, flowing through a hybrid system that violated every engineering principle in the galactic database. Computational nodes directed biomechanical cooling systems, while military coordination protocols managed power distribution through organic networks. It was ugly, inefficient, and theoretically impossible. It also worked better than the original system. At the Vega Research Institute, archaeologist Taiwu Kim was helping decode ruins that had puzzled researchers for decades. Previous attempts had followed established protocols. Zephyrian pattern analysis had identified logical sequences. Keth linguistic intuition had found biological communication patterns. Vrex systematic cataloging had organized everything perfectly. All 3 approaches had failed because the ancient civilization had apparently used none of them. "What if they thought differently than any of us?" Kim suggested during a meeting with the frustrated research team. "What if they combined ways of thinking that we keep separate?" He started mixing analytical approaches in ways that made the specialists uncomfortable. He used Zephyrian pattern recognition to find structures that Keth's intuition suggested might be emotional rather than logical. He applied Vrex systematic organization to chaos that appeared random but might follow rules. None of them understood. The breakthrough came when Kim realized the ruins were not using one communication method but switching between dozens of them randomly. The ancient builders had been generalists like humans, using whatever approach worked best for each specific message. Within days, they had decoded texts that revealed revolutionary insights into faster-than-light communication methods that no specialist approach could have discovered. Dr. Hannah Kim found herself leading the most important xenological study in galactic history. Her research teams worked around the clock to understand what humans were actually doing when they solved impossible problems. "Every galactic species has evolved toward optimization," she explained to a packed council chamber. "Zephyrians maximize computational efficiency by thinking in pure logic. Keth optimized biological integration by feeling their way to solutions. Vrex perfect collective coordination by thinking as one mind." She activated a holographic display showing brain scans from humans working on complex problems. The patterns looked chaotic compared to the clean, efficient neural pathways of other species. Humans appear to do the opposite, she continued. Their brains activate multiple processing methods simultaneously. Logic, intuition, emotion, memory, creativity, and analysis all fire at once. It should be inefficient. It should create confusion and conflict. The displays showed human neural patterns during problem-solving sessions, instead of the focused, specialized thinking patterns of other species. Human brains looked like lightning storms of cross-connected activity. Instead, it creates synthesis, Dr. Kim concluded. Where we see incompatible approaches, they see complementary tools. Where we see theoretical contradictions, they see creative opportunities. They do not optimize single variables. They optimize the connections between all variables. The implications hit the assembled delegates like a physical force. Every great achievement in galactic history had come through specialization. The Zephyrians had built computational networks by perfecting logic. The Keth had mastered biological engineering by perfecting intuition. The Vrex had created perfect military coordination by perfecting collective thinking. But the galaxy's greatest challenges required something none of them possessed: the ability to think in ways that transcended the boundaries of specialization. Humans are not mediocre generalists, Dr. Kim announced. They are synthesis specialists. They have evolved to be naturally good at the one thing none of us can do: thinking outside the limitations of our own greatest strengths. The chamber buzzed with conversation in dozens of languages and communication methods. Representatives who had dismissed humans as unremarkable were now seeing them as the missing piece in galactic civilization. Captain Ji-hoon Park, who had conducted Earth's first diplomatic contact, found himself promoted to chief liaison for human integration into galactic affairs. His first recommendation was immediate reclassification of human space from Class C to Class C. Actually, he told the council, I think we need a new classification entirely. Humans do not fit any existing category, because they refuse to accept that categories have to be permanent. For the first time in galactic history, the specialists realized they needed someone who specialized in not specializing. 2 years had passed since the pathogen crisis, and the new Geneva Synthesis Center on Earth had become the most important building in the galaxy. Ambassador Jisoo Moon walked through its main hall, watching something that would have been impossible just a few years ago. At one workstation, a Zephyrian crystal being worked alongside a Keth bioengineer and a Vrex coordinator, all guided by human facilitator Yunbi Park. They were solving the water crisis on Tau Ceti Prime, a problem that had stumped specialists for decades. The computational models show we need 40% more water than the planet can produce, the Zephyrian reported, its crystal form pulsing with mathematical certainty. But biological systems can create water through atmospheric processing, the Keth engineer bubbled from her water tank. The problem is energy requirements. Military logistics can optimize distribution efficiency by 23%, clicked the Vrex coordinator. But that still leaves us short. Yunbi Park smiled and pulled up a display that combined all three approaches into something new. What if we don't try to make more water? What if we change how the colonists use it? She showed them a hybrid solution that used Zephyrian calculations to predict weather patterns, Keth bioengineering to create plants that needed less water, and Vrex coordination to manage distribution during storms when natural water was available. None of the specialists would have thought to combine atmospheric prediction with plant modification and timing logistics. This approach reduces water needs by 60% while increasing availability by 30%, Yunbi explained. The solution was not making more water or using less water. It was changing the relationship between water, plants, and people. Across the hall, another impossible team was tackling energy distribution problems. Dr. Subin Lee, who had announced the pathogen crisis 2 years ago, now managed projects that combined specialist knowledge in ways that continuously surprised her. 3 months ago, the Rigel system was facing complete power grid failure, she told a group of visiting diplomats. Traditional approaches would have required building new power plants or completely replacing the distribution network. Either solution would have taken years and cost enormous resources. She gestured toward a holographic display showing the Rigel system's energy flow. Instead of the clean, logical patterns that specialist engineers preferred, the new system looked organic and chaotic. Humans suggested we stop thinking about power as something that flows from generators to users in straight lines. Dr. Lee continued. They created a network that combines Zephyrian computational management, Keth biological storage systems, and Rex coordination protocols. Power now flows wherever it is needed, when it is needed, stored in living systems that grow stronger when they hold more energy. The visiting diplomats from the newly contacted Helios Federation watched in amazement. They had come to Earth expecting to meet with specialists who could solve their own energy problems using established methods. Instead, they found an entirely new way of thinking about problems. "How do you train people to think this way?" asked the Helios ambassador. Dr. Hannah Kim, now director of the center's research division, laughed. "You cannot train specialists to think like generalists, but you can teach them to work with generalists. Humans do not replace specialized knowledge. They connect it in new ways." In the center's newest wing, Captain Ji-hoon Park was meeting with representatives from 6 different species, all facing the same problem. Their populations were growing faster than their economies could support them. Traditional solutions had failed because each species had approached the problem using only their own strengths. Zephyrian computational analysis shows that economic growth cannot match population growth, Park explained. Keth biological solutions suggest population control. Vrex military thinking recommends resource expansion through colonization. He activated a display showing a completely different approach. Humans suggested we change the question. Instead of asking how to grow economies faster or control populations better, we asked how to make prosperity less dependent on traditional economic growth. The solution combined Zephyrian computational power to create sharing networks, Keth bioengineering to make essential resources renewable, and Vrex coordination to manage distribution systems that worked more like living organisms than machines. 6 systems have implemented this approach, Park continued. Population growth continues, but prosperity is increasing faster than population because resources are shared more efficiently and renewed more quickly. As the day ended, Ambassador Moon stood on the center's observation deck, looking out at Earth's sunset. Through the windows, she could see humans walking alongside beings from dozens of different worlds. Crystalline Zephyrians reflected the sunlight like living jewels. Aquatic Keth moved through specially designed water channels. Insectoid Vex coordinated evening activities with military precision. But they were not just coexisting. They were collaborating in ways that created something entirely new. "The universe is more connected than we ever imagined," she said to Dr. Kim, who had joined her at the window. "Each species sees part of the truth, but humans see the connections between all the parts." Dr. Kim nodded. "Specialization made us powerful within limits. Synthesis makes us powerful beyond limits." Earth had changed from an overlooked backwater planet to the center of galactic civilization, not through conquest or superiority, but through something more revolutionary, the simple recognition that the greatest problems could only be solved by combining the greatest strengths. Humanity had given the galaxy its most valuable gift, the discovery that excellence did not require choosing just one way to be excellent.